Kevin, you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I had a problem connecting over here. All right. Yeah. All right. Working out over there. Yeah, someone's computer is making noise. I don't know who it's coming from.
Kayvon, I think yours is off mute. Kayvon.
Okay. Yes.
All right. It's over here.
It's morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Nun Gimel. Today, we're going to explain the Mishnah that we had on Daf Nun Beis, Amud Beis. We are continuing to learn the sugya that there are various items that may be on an animal, even when the animal is walking outside, Mirashus Hayachid, Lirashus Harabim, Daladamas, Mirashus Harabim, even though there is this general obligation known as Shvisas Behemtai, but various articles are not considered a burden, as we have been learning already in the last couple of daf. We're going to learn, for example, we had the first din in the Mishnah, Daf Nun Beis Amud Beis, Chamoir Yoitze b'Mardas. Mardas is a saddle cloth, the cloth that goes under the saddle. It also serves as an article, as a garment that keeps the animal warm. So something that's serving the animal, like we already mentioned, for example, if the animal's allowed to eat on Shabbos. I am not allowed to cut anything off the ground. That's called kaitzer. Something that the animal is doing for the animal's benefit is permitted, and it's not considered a burden. And we're going to learn a differentiation between a saddle cloth versus the saddle itself. And what we will introduce today is a whole new derabanan. And this isur midrabanan on Shabbos is that a person is not allowed to unnecessarily exert oneself. So anything that a person will be putting on the animal on Shabbos, forget about the whole issue of hoitza'ah. Even if the animal is going to be staying in your chatzit, in your reshus hayachid, if chachamim will deem that which you did as a unnecessary exertion, that is also going to be a behavior that will be prohibited, on Shabbos. Another gewaldige concept we're going to learn on Nun Gimel, that we are allowed to do something that alleviates pain from an animal. It's not considered unnecessary exertion. We're doing it to alleviate pain. But there is a difference between alleviating pain, preventing the animal from having tzad or taking away the tzad, versus giving the animal tainug, increasing the animal's comfort. And we can draw a line in between them. You're taking away the animal's pain, it's not unnecessary. You want to add to the animal's pleasure, that's not necessary. And if you have to do something, if you have to exert yourself, it's called unnecessary exertion. We're going to be learning about a kameya. We're going to be learning a gewaldike machloikes amiroim between Ula and Avnachon by Yitzchak, whether the isur midrabanan that, for example, a person is not allowed to take medicine on Shabbos, right? If they are less than a chayla she'ein by sakana, as we'll speak out. Why? Because shchikas samamanim. Maybe if a person is not feeling well and they're going to take medicine, if they want to have the medicine available, they're going to make the medicine. Making medicines, especially in the times of Chazal, include also grinding herbs. That's something that's also midairaisa. Do we make the same gezerah for animals? Or the other side is that no, that maybe if I'm in pain, if I'm not feeling well, God forbid I can be Machal Shabbos. But if my animal is not feeling well, my animal is only my financial property. I'm going to be Machal Shabbos to protect finances, avada not. And if there's Bechlal no fear, then we will see Rav Nachman by Yitzchak holds that there is no midrabanan against giving something to the animal that is of medicinal benefit, because there's no gezerah shchika samamanim. We're going to learn on Daf Nun Gimel Amud Beis. This is a nigla, my friends, a concept that a miracle that's enclosed in nature is much greater than a nace that is l'mayla midarach hateva. This is something that we learn a lot about in Hasidus, that the Eibishter can break nature pshita. There's no chiddush to that. God made nature. God is not bound by nature. God can break nature. But for Hashem to get Hashem's will actualized, concretized, al b'derech hateva, the way God wants, that's a much greater chiddush. And at the end, if we'll have time, we're going to continue to go through all of the details that we learned yesterday at the end of the shiur on the Mishnah on Daf Nun Gimel, on Daf Nun Beis, Amud Beis, regarding, for example, rams. The Mishnah made a difference between Zecharim, which is Shepsalach, that are male rams, versus ewes. Ewes means a female lamb. There's Zecharim, Yoitzim, Levuvin. We'll see what Levuvin means. That means that Rechelim cannot go Levuvin. The question is, what does it mean, and why will there be a difference between male and female lambs, and a lot more? And with that, let us start on Daf Nun Gimel, Amud Aleph, Chevra, all the way on top of the Amud. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakohen me'elohi. Says the Gemara. The Gemara is referring to the Reisha of the Mishnah. Chamoyer, the Mishnah began on Daf Nun Beis Amud Beis. Yoitze b'mardaas. Mardaas means a saddle cloth, the garment, the material that goes under the saddle. And a chamoyer is allowed to go outside with it. It's not a burden. Says Shmuel, v'hu shekshur aloim ha'erev Shabbos. When is that correct? If the balabas, if the owner already tied this mardas on the donkey from before Shabbos. What is the pshat? Pshat is like this, that the saddle cloth is serving a purpose for the chamoyer, that it keeps the chamoyer warm. Now, if a donkey doesn't need to be kept warm, then the mardas is a burden. If the balabas didn't already put on this mardas on the animal from before Shabbos, it means the animal doesn't really need it. That means that you're putting it on primarily that it should be, so to say, something that goes under the saddle itself. That's a burden. If you put it on Erev Shabbos, is the harai that the donkey needs it. Erev Shabbos means not when you took the animal out. It's bechlal on the animal. It's already classified now as a beged. A beged, the animal can go out with if the animal needs that garment. And Amar Rav Nachman, Shmuel is right. Masnisa Namidaik. If you learn this Mishnah and the next Mishnah is on Daf Nun Daled Amud Beis, you're going to see that it has to be that way. Because just like our Mishnah on Daf Nun Beis wrote what you could put on animals, the contrast of this Mishnah is going to be on Daf Nun Daled Amud Beis, items that you may not put on an animal. And the Mishnah writes over there, Viktani, Eina chamor yoytze ber madas, bizman she'eina kshura loy. Now the Mishnah doesn't mention anything about Erev Shabbos. If it's not tied, you can't put it on. And as we already mentioned in the last year, that even articles that theoretically should be allowed to be put on an animal, as we're going to have in the next Perek, even certain tachshitim that theoretically or midairaisa one should be allowed to wear, there's another midrabanan, that something that might fall off by a person, something that will be taken off. And therefore it's possible that the balabas won't right away put it back on. They might walk with it. They might violate Hoitzah by carrying it. That's also going to be usher. So the Mishnah writes, Mardas, if it's not tied, then you can't have it on a donkey. Now, what is the case of this Mishnah? If it's that it's not tied on at all, we don't need a Mishnah for that. Pshit, of course it's usher. because of this known gezerah. Dilma naflalei. If it's not tied, it's going to fall. It might fall off. It's a high likelihood it's going to fall off. And v'asalasuya, you're going to end up carrying it. Elolav, the Elamai, the Mishnah there is she'enik shura me'erev Shabbos. Yeah, of course, it's tied on. Still, the Mishnah says on Daf Nun Daled, you may not do it. Why? Because it wasn't tied from before Shabbos, which means our Mishnah that does allow the Chamar to go with the Mardas. The Erev Shabbos, Shmamino, like we explained, it's not going to fall off. The question is, the reason why it's mutter is because it's needed to keep the donkey warm. If it's needed to keep the donkey warm, then the owner would have put it on already before. Okay. Like we said in our Mishnah, and then now let's bite it. The Brisa continues, Ukov is the saddle itself. Why can't you put a saddle itself on the animal? Because since the saddle is put on the animal, either to have a person ride on it or to have a burden put on it, which the saddle is to load up the animal with a burden, with a masui. That's exactly in violation of Shvisas Behemtoi. And there, Afal Pishak Shuraloi Me'erev Shabbos. Because it's Be'ikir, not warmth, it's not a garment, it's for burden. That is a Tanakama. However, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Oimer, Af Bu'ukov, if it was tied on from Erev Shabbos, let's think common sense. Just like the cloth under the saddle de facto keeps the animal warm, the saddle itself adds to the warmth. And so, okay, if he didn't put it on from Erev Shabbos, it's not that needed, then you're not allowed to do it. But just like by the Mardas, if it was put from Erev Shabbos, I mean, he didn't put it on Erev Shabbos because someone was going donkey riding. He put it on that he wants it to be on the animal. Why does he want it to be on the animal? Because the animal needs it, or the animal benefits from it. Now, a saddle doesn't add as much warmth as the cloth. It doesn't matter. It adds some warmth. Anything that's adding some warmth is going to be classified as a beged. And if it's on the animal can walk out, and there's no carrying, there's no violation of Shvisas Behemtoi. However, details, that you should not have on this saddle what we call breast straps that bind the saddle from underneath the belly, the underbelly of the animal. And why would people put that on? Because when the animal goes uphill, if it wouldn't have been tied onto the animal, the saddle will fall off. Now, this fear of it falling off is only if someone is riding on it, or only if some item is put on it. You have to tie it on strongly. If you put on these straps, you're being megaladas that you're doing it mainly for burden. Then it's already asur. And likewise, just like they would need these under straps for when the animal goes uphill, the saddle shouldn't fall off. They also used to have another gimmick. Right? They would tie one strap beneath the tail. That is for when the donkey goes downhill. Since it's tied beneath the tail, it won't fall frontwards. Or if you tied it on in a way that you're showing you put it on in order for it to be firm. So if someone rides on it, it shouldn't fall off, then it's asur, even according to Rashbag. But if you put it on from before Shabbos and you didn't properly tie it on, what are you proving? You want it to be on the animal independent of someone riding on it. It's not because if no one is on it, it's not going to fall. You want it should be warm. Anything that's put on the animal to keep it warm, according to Rashbag, even if it only keeps the animal slightly warm, has a din of a beged, and therefore the animal is allowed to walk out with it on Shabbos. Beautiful. Says the Gemara,
Wouldn't it make sense to put a saddlecloth on at night once it's already dark, because that's when it gets cold? Meaning,
doesn't make a difference. Enochanami. You know, I'll tell you something, Abraham. Yeah, I mean, you have to draw a line. But Erev Shabbos would mean that Friday before Shkia, you would put the saddlecloth on. Very good. And that's what people would do. Okay. From his question was asked from Rab Chia bar Rav Ashi. This is a new question, my friends. Here we are, and this is not about Haitzah. Like we mentioned in our intro, there's a concept of a person not being allowed to do any unnecessary exertion. So this is Mamash Avrama, what you're asking. It's already Shabbos. My animal is staying in my yard. Am I allowed to put on the saddlecloth? So to Amar Lei, to which Rab Chia responded, Mutter. See, the key is unnecessary. I'm preventing my animal from being cold. That's not unnecessary. Amalei, and Rav Asi Bar Nosson was not answered with Rab Chia's answer. How was this different than an ukaf? Meaning, as we'll see in a moment, there is a braisa from which Rab Chia extrapolated, Keilu it's apshita, it's not written clearly, that an ukaf may not be put on. So he felt if an ukaf cannot be put on, why should a mardas be allowed to put on? And ishtik, to which Rab Chia did not respond, like Rashi says, Rav Asi thought that Rab Chia did not respond because he didn't acknowledge the question. He didn't acknowledge that an ukav might not put on. You're asking from an ukav, how do you know that an ukav cannot be put on? So now Rav Asi felt that he has to show Rab Chia that he's right. I'm going to prove to you indeed that an ukav cannot be, ukav is the saddle. No, I'm asking a good question. It says in the Braisa, ukav shal gaba chamoir. It's interesting that the Braisa is not speaking about putting on an ukav. The Braisa is speaking about taking off an ukav. And the premise of the sugya is that the one is connected to the other. It's all about unnecessary exertion. It says in the Braisa, if you have a saddle on a donkey, it's not about carrying. It's on Shabbos. You don't want it to be on your donkey's state. You can't directly take it off. It's called unnecessary exertion. So let it be on the animal. What do you care? Why are you working on Shabbos extra? Midrabanan, you can't do that. Ella, what should you do? You don't make it run back and forth. And many times when the donkey is running back and forth, automatically, that's so the Braisa is not addressing putting on, the Braisa is addressing taking off, all about unnecessary exertion. So now Rav Asi is proving to Rav Chia his base for the question, if you can't even take it off, and Mistama taking it off was relatively easier than putting it on, is lohaniach miboyi. And why? Not because it's harder. So the Rishonim say, not because harder, because there should be another issue with putting it on. What's the other issue? You're giving the appearance that you want to load and burn it on a donkey. It's like a marasayan. So you're taking it off means you're not going to work with the animal. Putting it on means you might be working, you might be putting something on the animal and have the animal take it from here to there. So that's even worse. So that for sure may not be done. So now I have a premise for my question. If an ukav cannot be put on Shabbos, why should a mardas be able to be put on? So Amalei, Rab Zera, who heard this back and forth, told Rav Asi, Shafke, hey, well, 1 second. Don't go and bring these rayas. Rav Chia, but Rav Ashi has no problem. Because he rightfully does what his teacher, the teacher of his was Rav. The Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi, Amar Rav, Toilin teraskel lebehema b'Shabbos. We may hang what's called a feed bag. A feed bag is that animals, if they bend all the way down, if there's food on the ground, they can eat from the ground. To make it easier for the animal to eat, they would have these little baskets filled with the food, filled with the hay, and they would hang it around the animal's neck, so it would be closer to the animal's mouth. So he doesn't have to, the animal won't have to make so much effort, the food will be closer to the animal. So it says, he quoted that this, Rab Chia bar Ashi repeated this teacher Rav, that you are allowed to be Toilin Teraskel Yom Shabbos. Now, what would be the issue again? Why would you not be allowed to do so? Maybe it's called unnecessary exertion. But obviously Rav held that you are allowed to do it. Why are you allowed to do it? Because it gives the animal pleasure. It makes things more convenient for the animal. So making something more convenient is certainly not as important as preventing the animal of being cold, preventing tzad. So so from there you can extrapolate that the Rav for sure would allow you to put on a mardas. Why for sure? Because when it comes to the feedback, the mishum tainug, even if you wouldn't have the feedback, the animal would not be in pain. If he would be hungry, he would bend down and get food. Still, to increase comfort, according to Rav, it's not violating this rabbinic unnecessary exertion. It's needed. It's needed for the animal. Here, when it comes to putting on a mardas, the mishum tsar, here you're preventing the animal being cold. Avada loy kolchein. And therefore, Rab Chia has the right to say what Rav says. From the Braisa, we had this avada that you cannot put a ukav on. So at Khan, up until now, could be. So you found a Tana that says you can't put on an ukav. We have this rule that the Rav, Tanahu Upalik, Rav has the same koyach. If need be, we can consider Rav a Tana. And the student, for sure should follow the Ha'ira, the Psak Din of his teacher. So therefore, you, Rav Asi, don't challenge Rab Chia bar Rav Ashi. Says the Gemara Vayter.
Rabbi,
yes.
Rabbi, just a quick question. Because of we said that the ukaf is not to be put on in Rishus HaYachid because of Maris Ayin. Where's the Maris Ayin in Rishus HaYachid though?
No. Oh yeah, correct. Ukaf should not be put on because it looks someone is looking at you. Let me give a rule. Whenever Chazal applied Maris Ayin, the Chazal say that afilu b'chadrei chadarim you can't do it. Maris Ayin doesn't mean because someone de facto is observing me. If something may not be done because if it will be observed, the observer might come out with the wrong conclusion, then I can't do it even when I am in private. And especially here, you're not b'chadrei chadarim, you're just in your chatzah. Now this leniency of Rav, not only do we allow one exerting oneself to prevent one's animal of being inside, we'll see that everyone agrees to that. But that Rav says you can put on a teraskel, that means you can exert yourself to add, to increase pleasure. That's a machlekes Rav and Shmuel. Shmuel holds, taka, you're right, mardas mutter. You can put on a mardas. Now, no one is saying that you can walk out with this with a shusarabim. In other words, we're not, Shmuel himself said on top of the Amid, if you didn't tie it on before, then you can't call this a beged. Shabbos has to come in when it's on the animal. But as far as you want to keep your animal warm, put on a mardas. Shmuel says you can do it. But teraskel is already asur because the animal doesn't need the increased tainug. So you're doing something that's not necessary. This is the isur derabanan. Okay. Also, Rab Chia bar Rabbi Yosef and Amar l'Shmaitzer the Rav. Kamei the Shmuel. He said, "Hey Shmuel, do you know that Rav says you are allowed to put on a teraskel?" When Shmuel heard it, very, very gevurdik words. Amalei, he says, "Ihachi Amar Abba." If indeed this is what Abba said, Rashi says, "Abba Chaveirai." There's many ways of learning Rashi. The pshat on Rashi is that Abba meant my colleague. Could be again. Rav's name was Abba Richa, and because they were Chaveirim, he called him by his name. Like by Hasidim, even great people, right, are called by their names, not because of we don't have respect, God forbid, it's because the Chaverschaft is so strong, that's how it goes by Chaverim. He says, if this is what Abba said, now listen to these words, these are Chaverim, he understands nothing about Shabbos. Wow. So Shmuel strongly disagreed with Rav. Says the Gemara weiter. Ki solik Rab Zeidon, Ashkechel Rabbi Yom Bar Yefes. The Yosef Yikom Mishmei Rabbi Yochanan. Also, that Noisnin Mardas Al Gaba Chamer B'Shabbos. You could put it on. We're not speaking about Hoitzah. We're speaking about this unnecessary exertion. And when he heard that, Amalei Rab Zeidon says, Yishar in Yiddish Yasher Koyach. And you should know, like you're saying, the king of Babel said the same thing. Now, who's the king of Babel? Aliyah or Shmuel. So the Gemara right away says, why was he saying so said Shmuel when we just learned that Rav said this plus? Not only Rav agreed you can put on a mardas, Rav held you can put on a teraskel. So Rav Nami Amara. So the Gemara says no, that when Rab Zeder heard more. Eloshameh, Rab Zeder heard the Hava Messiah that he completed the sentence. You could put on a mardas, but ve'ein toilon teraskel b'l Shabbos. Not like Rav, dafka like Shmuel. That Itaka said, Amalei Yishar, v'chein tirgma ariyoich bebavel. So says the Gemara, hold on. The Kola Alma, meaning both Rav and Shmuel, Mia Mardas Mutter. Maishna Me'ukaf, why is it different than an Ukaf? In other words, Rav is Tanahu Palik, we can even say that. But if everyone agrees that a Mardas, yes, clearly a Ukaf, what did we learn from the Braisa? You can't take it off. And the premise Atkan was if you can't take off an ukaf, you for sure, we said, cannot put it on. So why is a mardas different than an ukaf? So the Gemara says you are confusing taking off and putting on. Understand one thing, unnecessary exertion is also midrabanan. When there is a saddle on an animal, says the Gemara, shana hasam, the efshir de nafel memela. There is a way of taking it off with the owner working less. How? By making the donkey run back and forth. When a donkey runs back and forth enough times, the saddle is going to fall off. So if there's something that could be done with less exertion, with less tircha, then you're not allowed to do it. But no matter how many times the donkey is going to run back and forth, there's no way of getting an ukaf on the donkey without you putting it on. So you have to put it on. And why are you putting it on? You're putting it on not l'kainuk. to keep the animal warm. True, the ukav doesn't wrap the animal, it's not a garment, it doesn't keep it as warm as a mardas, but it's to keep it warm. Ubemela, the Gemara is saying right now, everyone will hold that an ukav could be put on. For the same reason a mardas could be put on, because it's to prevent the animal being cold. And anything that's to prevent pain in the animal is permitted. You can't do unnecessary exertion. It's not unnecessary. Many achronim say this is connected to tzar balachayim. Tzar balachayim doesn't only mean that you should not give the animal tzar. Tzar balachayim means if you can prevent the animal of having tzar, you're obligated to do so. But when it comes to adding pleasure, that's the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. Oh, that Rav was so lenient, you can even add Tainug, and Shmuel disagrees with it. Papa says, again, you can't compare putting on the saddle to taking it off, which is kan lechamama, putting on the mardas. And the same thing, putting on a saddle is to warm the animal up. The animal is cold, you want to warm it up. That you're allowed to do that, you're obligated to do that. You have to make sure your animal is not in pain. Kan, when you're speaking about removing the saddle, no, you can't do that. Why? Because why would you want to remove it? You can argue you want to remove it because the animal is cold. Animals are not cold. Animals don't need to be cold. Lachamama is leitzara. Leitzana no leis leitzara. Behind the dominant inchi. Chamra filo with kufas tamos, a donkey, even in the heart of summer, it's cold for him. Cold for him meaning he doesn't need for you to help him cool off. He needs to you to help him warm up. But he doesn't need to be cooled off. He never needs to cool off. Okay. Says the Gemara makes me. Again, this is a Shmuel who holds that alleviating pain is mutter. Increasing tainug is also, we learned in a Braisa, Shmuel, you're not allowed to have your horse go out on Shabbos. This is about carrying. Shvisas behemtoi. With the tail of a shual, tail of a fox. And Rashi writes, why would a sus go out with the tail of a fox? That people would hang it in between the eyes of the horse in order to prevent the horse getting an ayin hara. Likewise, so what? No, it's called carrying. It's not. We don't need that. It's called a masui. Nor with a red string that people would put in between the eyes. You would think it's about ayin hara. Rashi says that people would hang these red strings for beauty. Again, beauty doesn't justify the animal carrying. We had a senidam, so a zav is a person who's having an unnatural seminal emission. And there are times that the zav needs to know whether he's having additional of such emissions, whether to render him into a zav, whether to render him into a zav gedolah, whether you're counting shivas nekiyim, and to do that he would wear a patch on his male organ. That's not considered the beged, and therefore he may not walk out. He's going to be carrying. Nor can goats go out with some sort of patch that is put on their udders to collect dripping milk, as we learned in the Mishnah. We're going to learn a lot more about this later in the Gemara. Likewise, they would muzzle up a para, put a muzzle. You may not have your para going out with a muzzle. Sayachim is a certain type of horse called a colt. So a sayachim cannot go betras keleim shebepiyam with the feed bags on their mouths. Nor can an animal go with a animal's shoe. Oh, we'll see most of these, as Rashi will point out, is about, it's not called a shmira. It's not a halachic shmira. It's not a halachic beged. It's not here to help the animal lead it. So therefore it's categorized, classified as a masoi, isur shvisas behemtoi. The only one that doesn't fit is the shoe on the animal. By a horse, just to know, they would knock the shoe in with a nail until today. So it will never fall off. That's okay. Because that it prevents the animal from being in pain if it walks on something that can hurt its foot. But in all other animals, they didn't knock it in. And if they didn't knock it in, there's a possibility that the shoe is going to fall off. And therefore, that's what Rashi says. The shoe is because the Chazal were afraid that it's going to fall off, and the owner won't right away put it back on. The owner might carry it, and the owner is going to carry Dal Damas B'Rishus Arab. Okay, weiter in the Braisa. Shehu mumcha, afal pishu mumcha. Kameya is an amulet. If the animal is ill, like lahavdil, if a person gets ill, so one of the approaches that people took or take until today is they have someone write a kameya, some sort of mystical amulet, and you hang it around the neck of the animal, and the animal gets better. A kameya mumcha versus a kameya not mumcha doesn't only refer to the person who wrote it. Mumcha, Rashi says, called badakulanusa. This kameya in the past has worked for 3 times. Now the havamina here is that this kameya worked on animals, on different animals that were sick, and they walked around with this kameya and they got better. So here the Midrash is saying you can't use it. And here the Midrash adds, "V'zeh chomer b'beheimah mi ba'adam." The havamina is that the Midrash means that an adam, if there is a kameya that 3 other people before me wore that were ill and they got better, I am allowed to wear this kameya on Shabbos. It's not considered carrying; it's part of my beged, and it's going to heal me. But by a behema, even if it worked on 3 other animals, it's a mumcha dika kameya. A behema cannot go with the kameya. We're going to tweak that on Amid Beis. That's not the maskon of how we understand. Avol, so all of this is what the animal cannot walk out with. Avol yotzem, he's allowed to walk out with be'eged shal gabe amako, with a bandage on a wound, because a bandage on a wound is considered a garment, clothing, and ubekashishin shal gaba hashevet, and with splints on a fracture. The bone broke and you put splints, it's also part of the beged. Ubeshilya hamiduldelis, but if there is a dangling placenta, that means some of the placenta is going out of the womb of an animal, it's still considered the body of the animal. You can walk with it. And if there's a bell around the neck of the animal. Now, making the animal walk with a bell, even in your yard, is problematic because we're not allowed to be mashmiya koil or moilit koil. That means using an instrument to make music that this instrument was made for is asur midrabanan, because you might fix this instrument if it breaks. So any animal has a bell, you can't have it walk around. Shvisas behemtai. The animal doesn't need the noise. You're benefiting from it, and it's a violation of Shabbos. But if you plug it up, that means you put shmatas in it, so the bell, the knacker, cannot bang on the sides, then you are allowed to have it on it, not outside, or mitaylen imay b'chatzer. Okay. Very good. Now, Tani Miyas, now the Gemara is coming. All of this is going to be a kasha on Shmuel. One of the things that were mentioned in this brayse is that he may not walk out with this feed bag. And the brayse says in the public domain, because most of the items in the brayse is about the animal violating, you're violating shvisas behemtai, carrying. So that clearly says but you can even put on this basket on the animal if he's hanging out in your yard. And here also, and my love, that these ayachim are adults. Adults meaning that they could eat without a feed bag. They're big enough, they're strong enough to bend down and to get the food. So why are you putting on this traxolin? To make it easier, to add to the animal's convenience. And you are allowed to do it. That's a proof to enough. Umishum tainuk. Right, and that's a kasha against Shmuel. So the Gemara says no, that this brayso that is correctly implying that you are allowed to put on a traskalin bechatzer is only if these sayachim, if these colts are young, are little, and they're, just to know the way God made them is that when they're little, their knees are high, they have long feet, they have 12 feet, but their necks are very, very small when they're katanim, and they're unable to eat. They're too far off the ground. So that's already called sad, because not eating, that's already suffering. And I'm allowed to exert myself to make sure that my animal is not in sad. It's not called unnecessary exertion. And Tanya Daikanami and Azay is correct. And let's make the deal. Because Dick, Tani, Dafnun, Gimalomid Beis, the Braisa put it together with the Kameya. Why do you put a Kameya? No one puts a Kameya to at Tainum. A Kameya is put if someone is ill. You don't have a natural way of feeling, so you're using something metaphysical. So just like the kameya, now the kameya takada prices cannot be put on, but the kameya is for alleviation of pain. So therefore, the siyachim, the traskel should also be for alleviation of pain. Indeed, Shmamino. So we did not refute Shmuel. Now let's understand this part of the Braisa. Omar Mar, the master in the Braisa taught that v'loy b'kameya afal pishu mumcha. Even if it was proven effective, the animal cannot go out with it. We're going to learn a Mishnah on Daf Samach. The Mishnah that we're quoting is speaking about a person. That a person cannot go out with a Reshus Harabim if he's wearing an amulet that never was proven before that this worked. Hamumcha shaper dami, which l'chayda a person could. So the Gemara says, no. Hachinami, the Braisa is also speaking about by the animal she'ena mumcha. Gemara right away counters, the Fedish, the Braisa writes otherwise. So now the Gemara tweaks our understanding of the Braisa. Mumcha la'adam. If you have a kameya, if it's mumcha la'adam, meaning 3 people prior to right now were ill, and when they wore it, they got better. That's called the kameya mumcha. A person can walk out with this kameya on Shabbos. They're not carrying. This kameya on an animal cannot be used. If there was a kameya that was proven effective on other animals before, then the animal can wear it. But if this kameya only worked for Adam, we don't say, if it healed people, it's going to heal an animal. That's the pshat. But the ain't a mumcha l'behema. Is there such a thing? Mumcha l'adam la mumcha l'behema? If it healed a person, for sure it's going to heal an animal. Says the Gemara, no. Meaning, we make this difference. Why? Adam, the Islay Mazola, a person who has Mazel, right? In Hasidus, Mazel is the Chaya of the Neshama, the level already that goes beyond the body. The Chaya itself is giving me power. So therefore, with the Kameya, compounded with my Mazel, Misayele, it can work. But an animal, Neshama, right? Behema Leislay Mazola. And therefore, just this Kameya without the Mazel might not work. So that's why if it's mumcha la'adam, it's not de facto mumcha l'behema. Just to know that Rashi here, 2-3 lines on top of the Amid, Taichas Mazolei, Malach Shaloi, it's not a stira. It's different ways that different Rishonim speak about different phenomena. The Malach Shaloi, the way we learn in Chassidus, means a part of my neshama itself, called Chaya. Now, why does it say Zeh Chomer Ba'behema Mi Ba'adam? If really you're telling me that a kameya that was prior to this animal, if it was effective to healing 3 other animals, an animal could walk out with it. And the same is with an Adam, so they are alike. So how can this Braisa write Zech Chomer Ba'behema Mi Ba'adam? So the Gemara says, you're learning this line wrong. You're taking it out of its correct context. This is not referring by the kameya of the mebehema are the same. The only thing is, again, if it's mumcha la'adam, it's not mumcha la'behema. But if it's mumcha la'behema, an animal can walk out with it. This statement of chomer ba'behema mi ba'adam is going on the sandal, like we mentioned. When a person is wearing shoes, we never say this type of shoe a person can't wear. A slip-on you can't wear. We don't say that. Because even if the shoe will slide off my foot on Shabbos, no one was afraid that I'm going to carry it. People will put their foot back in their shoe. An animal doesn't put its foot in the shoe. You're trying to help your animal not get hurt. And if the shoe will fall off, you might carry it, and therefore you may not have an animal walk out with the shoe again, unless, we spoke out of Mehmet Aleph, the shoe was somehow nailed into the animal's foot, then it can't fall off. If it can't fall off, it's not a problem. Then it's a beged. Tashema, Revaiter continuing, this is going to be both on Rav and on Shmuel. They both agreed that unnecessary exertion does not include any activity that you are doing to alleviate an animal's sa'ar, to alleviate an animal's suffering. That is allowed to be done. We may anoint a sore, right, with oil, that's called sachin. Umefarkasin means that if there's a scab that needs to be scraped off, you are allowed to scrape it off on Shabbos for a person. However, ve'ein sachin nor umefarkasin la behema. And why would you not be allowed to do it? Because of tircha yeseda, because it's unnecessary exertion. And my lav the ikamaka, that there is a makkah, and therefore anointing the animal should have been permitted to alleviate pain. And still the Braisa says you can't do it. And the reason will be because it's not a human being, it's the animal. Unnecessary. So it's Akasha, both on Rav and on Shmuel. Says, well, no. The Braisa is speaking about the Gomar Makkah. The Makkah is gone already. You're not doing it to alleviate pain. You're doing it, again, to increase pleasure. And that's something that cannot be done, which is Shita Shmuel. Akasha, and Rav. That doesn't bother us. We already had it in Ramad Aleph, even in the premise, in the Havamina, because Rav Tana Hu Palik. Weiter, another kasha. Toshma belongs in the Braisa, if an animal is suffering from, it's called congestion of blood, has a blood clot, and the solution there is to put the person or the animal into cold water. So if an animal has this ailment, don't put it into water. It's unnecessary exertion. But Adam, yes, okay, so what's the kasha? You see that alleviating pain is not giving you a heter. But why not? It's not called unnecessary exertion. So comes along Ola with a big chiddush, and he says, Rav and Shmuel are right. If I'm doing something to alleviate pain from my animal, it's not called unnecessary. Here we're speaking about an animal that's ill. Illness is a whole new parsha. And there's a gzeira midrabanan that one cannot take medicine on Shabbos. Amar Ula, gzeira mishum shchika samemanim. Because putting the animal in cold water is a therapy to resolve this sha'achaz adam. And that's all as chiddush, that just like Chazal were goyzer that a person may not take medicines on Shabbos, so are they goyzer on animals. Before we go on, I just want to clarify the following. You have different levels of illnesses. Let's begin with 4. You have a chayla sheyesh by sakana. His life is in danger. However you qualify that, that's pikuach nefesh. Machal Shabbos if you have to midorais. Then you have what we call a chayla she'ein by sakana. A chayla she'ein by sakana means if a person, his life is not in danger, but he's unable to function. One of the ways we apply this practically is that you feel so ill that you have to go to bed. A chayla, even she'ein by sakana, my friends, is allowed to take medicine on Shabbos. Where is there the gezeda of the Chazal when a person is not even a chayla she'ein by sakana? Right, we give an example. A person has heartburn. A person has a level of a headache where they're functioning. They're going to go to shul. They're going to stay on the Shabbos table, but it bothers them. Here is where Chazal say that you can't take medicines because you might end up grinding herbs, and Ula's being mechadish, and this is the achaz adam is in that category. Ula says it applies to an animal, but hold on. But the Braisa clearly says that a person could stay in cold water. So a person avada, there's an isra of shchika samamanim, iyacha adam nami. So the Gemara gives an answer, which is important rules. Adam nira kemeka. Any type of medicinal therapy. If this therapy, if this behavior, or if this food is also taken by healthy people, then there's no problem with shchika samamanim. A person is a chayla she'ein by sakana, and let's say in eating protein is good. But he can't eat protein? Of course he could, because even if he would have been healthy, he would have eaten protein. Standing in cold water is something that people do. Something that people do, even when they're not ill. But animals, by an animal also need a kamekar. So again, the Gemara says what it said in Ramad Aleph. People don't do that to animals. Ein mekar lo behema. Animals never, it could be they're very hot, but they don't need to be cooled down. You only do it if there's an illness involved. A behavior that's connected only to illness, according to Ula, is included in the Yisur of Shchika Samamanim. Now, the Gemara is challenging Ula's premise. You're telling me Ula behema migas rinan? And let me tell you why logically you can argue with Ula. No, people are careful with Shabbos. The reason why they were afraid for you to take medicines is because you are in pain. You are in pain. You're not feeling well. You might be bold. You might go and grind herbs. But if your animal is in pain, your animal is your financial property. You're going to be machal Shabbos to save your finances, for which Chazal have to make a takana. That's already a bigger chiddush. If the animal is outside the tchum, you are allowed to call it and it will come. And we're not afraid that you're going to come and lead it. Now, why not? Why are we not afraid you're going to come and lead it? Because we're never afraid that you're going to be Machal Shabbos just to save your finances. And just like we see that if there's an issue of a tchum, then we didn't put extra restrictions out of fear you might end up breaking the Shabbos. So the same thing should be with medicine. So Amar Avina, that you didn't understand Pshat in this Braisa, right? The first white line, and the way Rashi explains it is as following. Generally, my animal and my kalim are bound with my tchum. Because if I took on Shabbos here, and I can only walk until a certain point, my animals are bound to that same tchum. But if before Shabbos I gave over my animal, let's say to a shepherd, I wanted the shepherd to be achroi, and he accepted it, then my animal is bound by the tchum of the shepherd. And what happened here is like this. I gave over my animal to a shepherd. The animal walked out of the shepherd's tchum. Question is, can I have the animal come with me? Now, l'chayra, if there's an isur of shvisas behemtoi, l'chayra, it should be prohibited. It's not so simple. It's not prohibited because we mentioned that an animal, for example, can eat grass, hay, ripping it out of the ground on Shabbos. He's doing kaitzer. Anything that an animal does for the animal's benefit is okay. If my animal wandered out of the tchum of the roya, the animal, he didn't violate shvisas behemtoi. The yodayim, I can't schlep the animal. The yodayim means the animal doesn't want to come to me. So I'm forcing my animal to do something for me. I want the animal to be with me. The animal is bound by the shepherd's tchum. That I can't do. But if I'm calling it, that's the braisa. And it comes because the animal wants to be with me. Anything that the animal, so to say, is doing for itself is not b'chlal in violation of shvisas behemtoi. That's the case of the braisa. Ula stands his ground that the chachamim did decree shchika samemanim regarding giving any sort of medicinal foods or therapies to one's animal because a person might do shchika samemanim for his animal's benefit. However, Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, the first white line, argues with Ula, and he holds that no, that indeed shchika samemanim gufa tanoi. There's a machlekes tanoim. In other words, what was said, Ula has a leg to stand on, but this is a machlekes tanoim. The Tanya we learned, behema shachola kashinin, an animal who ate vetch. Now, vetch is an animal's food. What's the illness? Just like if a person overeats, the Rambam writes, that's the source of all illness, right? That's the biggest klal on the Rambam. Staying healthy means only eat when you're hungry. And when you eat, never eat even till satisfaction. Forget about eating until you're stuffed. That's mamash poison. Don't even eat until you're satisfied. The animal ate, a behema eats. It's in front of you, he eats. That's a simon of a behema. So the animal ate kashinim in excess. Now the animal is not well. State in the Braisa, you may not even make the animal run back and forth. One of the ways to get rid of excess food is to work it off. You can't make the animal work. Why not? Because that's the Tana that Ula leans on. Because you're doing something to heal the animal. That cannot be done on Shabbos. However, Rab Yoshia will be the right girsa. Rab Yoshia is an Amoira. This is a Tana. But Rab Yoshia matir. So therefore, you should know the machlekes tanoim. And Darash Rabba halacha Rab Yoshia. But Omar, we learned before that lo yotza lo yetze hazov bekishaloi, that azov, right, in the isur of hoitzah, I'm allowed to walk with garments b'rishus sarabim, but something which is not called a beged may not be taken with me. That includes the pouch for a zav v'lo yizim bakisha bedadeim, nor a pouch on the udders of goats. I frekti gemara v'hatanya yoitza is izim bekisha bedadeim. Now, if you remember that in the Mishnah Daf Nun Beis, Amid Beis, we had a three-way machlokes tanoim about it. We had the Tanakama that says that hoizim yoitzais sururais with their udders tied, and we learned in Rashi that there are two reasons why they would tie the udders. One is to dry out the milk. One is to capture the milk. And the Tanakama holds you can do it for both reasons. Rabbi Yossi says you may not do it for neither reasons. And then Rabbi Yehuda says it depends. If it's to tie it liyabesh, it's okay. If it's lachalev, then it's not okay. So really, the answer would be obviously it's a machlekes and Mishnah, machlekes tanoim. So you're putting out a kasha. We already know it's a machlekes. For some reason, Rabbi Yehuda said like kasha. Everyone is following the one Tana that you are allowed to have this type of a kiss on the dadim of Izim. Elama, the brisa that says that you could go out with it, that's the mahadak, that it was properly tied. The first brisa that says v'loy izim b'kishav v'dadeim, right? The brisa we had on Amud Aleph, the loy mahadak. Mahadak means it wasn't tied properly. It might fall off. If it might fall off, you might end up carrying it down to Shus Rabin. But Rabbi Yosef doesn't understand why Rabbi Yehuda needed to do that. So Rabbi Yosef, what are you removing all the Tanoim from the world? We know it's a machlokes Tanoim anyways. We know this from our Mishnah. Everyone knows Mishnahs. Tanoihi, the Tanan in our Mishnah, Izim Yotzes Seruris. Rabbi Yosef, everything that was mentioned in the Mishnah, including Izim Seruris, Oyser Bekulam Chutz, Benarachelois, Hakavunais, that will still explain what that means. And Rabbi Yehuda said it depends. Izim Yotzem Seruris if it's to drive the milk. But loyli chalev not to collect the milk. So it's a machlokes in the Mishnah. So that's the two Tanas, big deal. And furthermore, says Rabbi Yosef, just why did you insist that both Tanoim are following the sheet of the Tanach Kama? And the only reason why it's usher is when you didn't tie it up. Fakir, if you say Mahavaha Rabbi Yehuda, but like Kasha kan liyabesh, mamish, like Rabbi Yehuda himself says, liyabesh is permitted, and the kan lechalev. We're going to go over this more in the next sugya. Now, Tanya Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Even though that we have Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah who holds that lechalev is asur, but Rabbi Yehuda says liyabesh is mutter. There's another case where Rabbi Yehuda holds that you could put on some sort of garment on the udders of a goat. Ma'aseh be'izim beis antoichia. There was goats that belonged to this household. Shahoya dadeim gasim, that their udders were very large. If they would walk out there, Rashi says their udders, because of their size, would drag on the floor and they might get perforated and or wounded. So they allowed va'asu lehem kisim, kadei shelo yisartu dadeim, right? They had kisim made for the udders in order for the udders not to get punctured, and that's called a beged. And Rabbi Yehuda holds that this is something that the animal may go out with on Shabbos. It's not a burden, it's a beged, it's for its own protection. So now that we mentioned this unusual udders of goats, another Maisa, Tan Rabbanan, this is the link, Maisa be'echad shemeisa ishtoi, someone's wife passed away, v'inicha ben linak, and unfortunately she left an infant child, and he didn't have money to pay a wet nurse. The child was going to pass away from hunger. God made a miracle to the person. And his body developed like a woman's body. And here on the side, if you look by me, it's on the left side. The Maseidah Shashas brings from a Midrash and Bereshis Rabbah on the pasuk in the Megillah regarding Mordechay, Vayehi Oimein as Hadassah. Oimein also means a wet nurse. So we find the same thing that when Esther became an orphan, right, the niece of Mordechay, that God made a miracle to Mordechay. Look at this, the same thing. That Sheniftuchu Mordechay Shnei Dadim Kedade Isha, and Va'ayin Sham, how he brings it into our sugya, which is interesting. So coming back over here, so Baraisa quotes such a miracle. So Amar Rabbi Yosef, hearing this miracle, look how great this person is. That God made such a miracle for him. Right? And Amalei Abaye to Rabbi Yosef, look how inferior is this person. Wow. Like we spoke about in the intro. In other words, Kamagarua, if he would have had Parnasa, a Yid getting Parnasa is greater than a Nes L'mayla Medarach HaTeva, because B'chlal, a Nes Meluvish and Teva is even greater. Amar Rav Yehuda, Bayurei Kama Koshem is a nice of Shaladim Shenashtanu, all of Sidrei Bereshis. Look at the story. B'chlal, there's a rule that God doesn't make a miracle in vain, and when a miracle has to happen, Hashem does the lesser miracle. So Common C says that getting Parnasa Piderach HaTeva is a greater miracle than this miracle, because he did not merit the greater, he merited the lesser. And Amar Rav Nachman Teda B'chlal, I'll prove it to you, that the Misrach Hashnisa, that many miracles happen when a person is ill and they get healed. There are many miracles that happen, which is more common, but it's very rare that God does a miracle that automatically you'll have more, God will give money to you, or God is going to just have your grain increase miraculously. Wow, that's something that's rarer, it's less common, like Rashi writes right under the Gemara, the first line. It's not the ruggle. Rashi says it's not ruggle. For example, Tainus Chav Daled, whoever remembers the story of Elazar Ish Birta, there was mamash such an ace. It happens, but it's not that common. It's very common that other miracles happen. So you see, when it comes to Parnasa, and especially Parnasa al Piderech HaTeva, that's the greatest miracle. Well, there was once the Rebbe in the earlier years, the Rebbe was going into 770 Daven Mincha upstairs, and a Yid stopped the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe, why is it that nowadays we don't find the miracles that we find in the Chumash? Why doesn't these miracles happen anymore? So the Rebbe is walking into the shul, Yeshiva Bachram are learning, the Rebbe pointed, he see all these chavri here, they're going to get married, and they're going to have Parnasa, and that miracle is greater than the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf. And that's mamish this Gemara. But I have to stop now. We're going to stop over to be continued. And just to say that we're going to learn, at least for the next few weeks, God willing, Motzei Shabbos, one daf, and then the next daf Sunday morning to be continued.
Oh yeah.
What
What time was the Shabbos?
Motzei Shabbos, 45 minutes after Shabbos.